Trump also taking aim at Hillary's 2008 primary loss to then-Senator Barack Obama at a campaign stop in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I want to bring in former Trump campaign advisor Roger Stone, who's involved with a Trump-focused super PAC called the Committee to Restore America's Greatness. Roger, good to have you on the program.
Good morning. Great
What
to be with you.
do you make of this, that people are embarrassed to call Trump their president?
Trump is going through a tough campaign for the nomination, which he's been leading. Hillary's having a walk in the park. Her negatives will be refired once she comes under attack. Bernie Sanders isn't doing that job. Not on her abuse of women, not on her hypocrisy on pay equality, not on her tenure in the State Department, not on the Clinton Foundation. There's plenty of fodder there for a general election campaign.
Yeah, but is Trump more worried about Hillary or is he more worried about Ted Cruz?
I think he's more concerned in the long term about Hillary. He's going to win the Republican nomination. I do think Ted Cruz has got...
there. He's a factor.
He does, but let's see what kind of legs he has after Iowa. I think Trump has a broader appeal. I think he's got more going in some of the later states. The irony, of course, is that no one has emerged from the establishment wing of the party to challenge him. Right. Not Chris Christie, not Jeb Bush, and so far, not Marco Rubio.
We'll see about Christie.
That was kind of the point I wanted to bring up is Trump's relationship with the Republican Party. Can you speak to that a little bit? I mean, will they get behind him? If his numbers continue to lead, will they get behind Donald Trump?
If he's the nominee, I think he will. Of course, the specter of Hillary Clinton helps enormously. The other thing that's interesting, though, is that Ted Cruz is no more palatable to establishment Republicans than Trump is. It's surprising that both of the leading candidates come from the Tea Party conservative wing of the party, not the establishment wing.
We were talking about Iowa, and we know that traditionally in Iowa and New Hampshire that voters make up their mind about a week before. But right now, Cruz is leading Trump in Iowa. For how much longer is Trump going to allow Cruz to lead him in Iowa? Because if the first state is a loss for him, I think that's a huge momentum loss for Trump going into New Hampshire and South Carolina.
As you probably know, traditionally, of course, the winner of Iowa is not the winner of the nomination. The winner of Iowa is almost never the winner of New Hampshire.
So why is Iowa so important then?
Well, it's an excellent question. That's something you'd have to ask the Republican National Committee. What's interesting, though, is that Iowa is a caucus. It's slightly different. The pool of voters is large enough to nominate Trump or for him to win the caucus. The question is whether his campaign can get those people to the polls.
So Trump's going to let
Many of them non-voters, many of them first-time voters. Yeah. It's a challenge, but if he can do it, I think he can prevail.
But Trump's going to let Cruz beat him in Iowa, it sounds like. He's not going after him. What's it going to take?
Well, it's 45 days away. I wouldn't count on anything yet. At this point, Trump is in strong shape in either state. I would point out that caucus and primary polling is very volatile. And therefore, you see different polls in Iowa. Some of them show Cruz further ahead than others.
But this is an important point. Should he be doing more on the ground in Iowa right now, if he wants to really beat Ted Cruz?
The guy running his Iowa operation is really excellent. He led Rick Santorum to what we now know is a victory 3.5 years ago. I think the Trump folks know what they're doing on the ground in Iowa.
Okay. In the general election, is a state like Iowa as important now in this age of social media? Or can Trump say, you know, I can get out to my millions of Twitter followers and Facebook followers, so whether or not I win in Iowa, it becomes less important? As a campaign manager, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I just think if you look at the historical trend in Iowa, it's not a reliable predictor of the nominee. Now, I don't think you can finish fifth. But if Trump finishes in the money, in the top two, New Hampshire is a more palatable state. Fewer evangelical Christians, more Catholics. Obviously, he's a Northeasterner running in the Northeastern state. I think New Hampshire is potentially a better state for Trump.
This is the same game plan that Rubio is sort of playing as well, by not investing in the infrastructure in the early states. I think Rubio is following the Trump model of social media, getting out there in the debates, and having that sort of presence that leads to more of a national campaign than an early state campaign.
Yes, but you need to win someplace. And Marco Rubio's got some promising numbers in the kind of the middle of the pack, but he has to win in New Hampshire, pardon me, in Iowa, in New Hampshire, South Carolina, or he'll have no momentum going into the South.
So you think Trump can lose Iowa and he's fine?
He can lose Iowa. He would have to rebound.
Is he giving up on Iowa?
What about New Hampshire? I mean, what if, like, for example, Chris Christie wins New Hampshire?
Well, first of all, because the delegates are proportional up until March 15th, and also because all these candidates have super PAC money, you could go to a convention with no one having this nomination wrapped up, with Trump having the largest single block of delegates, in which case, frankly, I fear a brokered convention in which they try to cheat Donald Trump out of the nomination.
Wow.
So if, as you say, if Donald Trump gets the nomination, who are the top people to be his vice president?
I couldn't even begin to speculate. My guess would be somebody from outside the discipline of politics.
Well, I mean, does he have some kind of an arrangement or an agreement with Ted Cruz? You know, Morgan and I were talking about this earlier, the fact that they're just so polite to one another.
I have no way of knowing. I know he likes Ted Cruz.
He does.
I like Ted Cruz. On many issues, they're very similar.
Can he win the election, or is he too conservative for the general election?
Well, they said Ronald Reagan was too conservative for the general election. The same people who say Trump can't win say Cruz can't win. I think given the incredible negatives and staleness of Hillary Clinton and the exploitable problems she's had at the State Department, the fact that she's responsible for this mess largely in the Middle East, I think she's very beatable.
So you think they both can beat her?
Yes, I think any of the Republicans would actually have a shot to beat her.
So it sounds like if it comes down to Trump versus Cruz in a primary, you think the establishment's going with Trump?
Well, it would be an interesting question. Neither one of these guys is the flavor of the month for them, but I think that he might have a broader appeal in the sense that I do think Trump can bring hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of voters back into the process who have given up on the two-party duopoly, who are sick of politics, who think the system is broken. The Trump campaign is an insurgency. It's an uprising. And I think it changes the face of the electorate very dramatically.
It sure does. Roger, great to have your insights this morning. Thanks so much.
Glad to be here.
Roger Stone there. Don't forget, you can only see the next Republican debate right here on the Fox Business Network. Mark your calendars and join us Thursday, January 14th, live from Charleston, South Carolina, when we will host the next GOP presidential debate, Thursday, January 14th. Let's check Mark.